This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Life Mastery with Todd Allen, the talk radio show that dives into the science of higher consciousness. Join Todd and his guests weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and learn how to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. Enjoy a survey of inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. It's all right here. Leading authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs with stories and messages to support your well-being, let alone your most evocative of dreams.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and you know why? If you don't know why, that's because I make it that way. When I get up in the morning, I set the intention that it's going to be a groovy day and take off into my daily activities, and it's all going to be groovy. But life is life. Something ungroovy might happen, but I can magically groovyize it.
Now you're just making stuff up.
Well, it's kind of what I do.
You groovyize it.
And then all is good, and I keep right on going. And life happens. We all know that. And today's another groovy day, and you know why that is? Because it's Life Mastery Radio Day. Yay! I get to hang out with my really cool friend, Jackie Bailey. And Jackie Bailey and I get to hang out with really cool people with really cool books, really great thoughts and ideas, and we just hang out and talk about cool stuff at least for an hour. And then we get to share that with people. So that's kind of cool. That's why it's groovy. I want to remind you that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net, and any links that we talk about on the show today, you will find right there. So you don't have to worry about writing anything down if you're driving or running on a treadmill or whatever it is that you're doing while you listen to Life Mastery Radio. Just remember www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com, whichever one you prefer. And you can find everything that we talk about, especially our really cool guests. Before we get started, you know, I really like to get myself centered and situated and ready for a really cool show. That's mostly what I do. And so let's just take in a deep breath all the way down past your solar plexus, down in deep, and let that breath out with a big ah, and just let it flow up through your heart center, out of your throat chakra, out the speaker box, and out into the universe. Now this time with the breath in, think about your dreams, visions, and goals. We're in a brand new baby year, and all of those are achievable if you set the intention and your mind to it. So think about those dreams, visions, and goals. In with a deep breath. Let those out with another big ah. Let them flow up through the heart center, out of the speaker box, out into the universe. And here's the deal. Allow the universe the opportunity to make those come true for you. Head up, tail out from between your legs, and look for that opportunity because it's coming your way if you set the intention. I have a feeling we're going to talk about that a little bit today.
I think so too.
As always, I already introduced her, but my really cool friend, Jackie Bailey, is here today. My really cool co-host, friend, comrade. What else?
Partner
Hi, Jackie.
in crime.
Partner in crime. Okay, we're not going to say that, but we can agree to that, I guess. Hi, Jackie. How's it going?
Hello. It's good. We've had a snowy week, and so it's always
inches.
Pretty when it's falling, and it's pretty when it's still in your yard on the ground, but it's not fun to drive in.
It's getting all mushy now, though. It's just amazing.
It's all
I
mushy.
think on Saturday, I got 20 inches, and then Sunday a little bit more.
Wow.
And by the time I got my snowplow out, it was really too deep for my little snowplow.
Wow.
So I had to work a little extra to get it. It took me hours and hours just to clear my driveway, but
Wow.
I won't let that happen again.
You have to keep up with it while it's snowing. Is that what you're going to do next time?
Well, I had a gig on Saturday and all day. It was an all-day gig, and then by the time I got home, it was getting dark, or by the time I got off Zoom, it was getting dark.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't do anything. And then by the time Sunday rolled around, it snowed all night and it was deep. And my poor little snowplow just was like, this is gonna take a while.
What do your little dogs do in the snow?
They get around. I make sure and clear a path for them. That's for, and my chickens. My chickens won't walk on the snow either. So I have to make them a little place, and that takes a little time. And yeah, they all enjoy it. My cat, this is the first year my little cat got to experience snow, because last year he was too little to go outside, but he's been kind of like, what the heck is this all about? And then he comes in all soaking wet and wants to jump on my lap and da 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 da.
It is funny to watch the way animals react to it. It's like you open the door, they look out, and they're like on a completely new planet or something, and they stand there for a second going, what in the world?
Especially my chickens. Usually they're just clawing at the door to get out of the coop. And I opened the door up and they just like, huh, I don't think so. What the heck is that?
Exactly. Going back to bed. Pulling my feathers over my head and going back to bed.
Are you ready for another groovy edition of Life Mastery Radio?
I am. Pat seems an amazing person, and I loved reading her book, so I'm excited to talk to her a little bit more about that.
Yeah, let's introduce her just a little bit. I always like to create a nice little introduction. It's the Toastmaster in me. I don't know where
it's the Toastmaster way.
Pat Alva-Kraker is the author of the #1 bestseller, Katherine's Quest: One Woman's Journey to Elation. Today, Pat Alva-Kraker travels the country and the world. Well, it might be a little restricted now, but live and virtually. There we go. There's that word, virtually. Assisting women business owners and entrepreneurs alike to overcome any obstacles, stay heart-centered, scale their business with ease and grace, and affirming their right to financial freedom while creating a life they love. Hi, Pat. How are you today, my friend? Look at that smile. Big.
Hey. Hello, my friends. It's great to be here. You guys look marvelous.
We have a blast. Can you tell we have a blast?
I'm sorry?
I said, can you tell we have a blast?
We had a blast?
We have a blast.
If we weren't doing a radio show, Todd and I would have a vaudeville show.
That's a cool idea. Can you imagine doing that on Zoom? Pat, you wrote this wonderful book. How do I describe it? Help me out.
A sweet little parable. Right? Is that how you were going to describe it? A sweet little parable? A
sweet little parable. This book is a joy. Oh my goodness. It's nice and short. And you have this real creative story about your uncle and his trip through these islands that help us explore our inner workings ourselves. I think I got that right. But, the most fascinating part is Pat's musings. Mm-hmm. My question is, where in the heck did the idea for this book come from? If it is not, shall we say, I'm sure it's true. In your heart, it's true. And in your head, it's true, but kind of fiction.
It is. It is a sweet parable, and it is based on, 3 significant emotional events that occurred in my life that drove me to create a book that would help other women with their challenges and how to overcome them by applying the secrets and the practices that I implemented in my life to get through cancer, an early death of my husband, and then a layoff, and what it took for me to come out on the other side a wiser, more confident person because of it.
That's interesting. Oh, I don't know if I want to say that's interesting, because in the book, your husband ran off with the secretary.
That is right. He did run off with the secretary. But in truth, my husband died at an early age, and I was left running a 200-acre ranch with just one a ranch handler. And my husband and the ranch handler, ran it beautifully. But when it came to me running it, I was working in corporate America, working my coaching program, my practice, and Randy was in a wheelchair.
Mm. Wow.
So everything was cool until we had bad weather.
Right.
Oh.
And then I had to take a day off.
Well, let's get into that backstory a little bit, because I was intrigued to find out that you worked for one of my favorite companies always is IBM, and then Lockheed Martin. I'm an airplane nut. I know all those airplanes, and oh my gosh, did you work in Skunk Works?
I wish I had.
Oh.
I wish I had. Now, I worked in aeronautics, so I was responsible for supporting the engineers who did the maintenance on the F-16 and the F-35, the most current fighter jet. So you're right. It is an amazing industry. I really, really enjoyed it.
I worked on one of McDonnell Douglas's. Oh, you were with Lockheed Martin, but the airplane I started out working on was the A4 from McDonnell Douglas, and yeah, the A4 Skyhawk. It's a pretty cool little airplane, and I love airplanes. So, how did you transition from this big corporate America, the big corporations? Was it something that you got? How do I want to put this? That you got tired of, basically, and then moved into being a coach? Is that the deal?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that actually coaching, actually fell on me. I would say it's a gift and a talent that really got spurred on with my desire to see women move forward in their lives. So both of the industries that I worked in were male dominated, and I saw very few women in the management and executive ranks. So when I would run into women that were ambitious and hungry, I would sit down and say, how can I help you get there? What can I do to help you get there? And I would support them and coach them and mentor them. And slowly women within the company would learn that I could make a difference in their lives. And they started, when they came up with, in conversations, they would come up with, God, this is what I want. How do I get there? I would say, well, you ought to go talk to Pat.
Talk to Pat.
And that's how things kind of started, is you ought to go talk to Pat. And I started coaching a lot of engineers and women in IT. And I said, maybe I should just start really transitioning this as a full-time business. So I started it while I was working in corporate America and started building it that way.
Wow. So Pat, your book is a lot like what you're talking about here, in that you've created this fictional character. The book, by the way, is called Katherine's Quest.
Oh yeah.
And Katherine is this fictional character who, there you go, who is going through, as you illustrated, some challenges in her life. And she's going through a divorce, and she's having to leave her home and make all these major life changes. And she finds a journal from a beloved uncle who's since passed. And she begins to read about his discovery of what life is all about.
Yes.
And it sets Katherine on her own journey of discovery as she's learning this journey that her uncle took. So my question for you is a couple of parts. Since you work with women who are in the corporate industry, are you finding that there's still some who struggle to feel that power to have what they want? And then on the other side of that, are there those who achieve the recognition that they're looking for, but still aren't finding happiness? And how can everybody achieve that?
Right.
You bring out a lot in your book, but what would you say to someone on either side of that coin, someone who's on their way up? What advice would you give them to maintain true happiness throughout that process? Because it could be brutal. And then what do you say to someone who has been there, but not finding the joy they thought they would find?
Right. So I would begin with define what success is. Just define what success is, because our family, society, corporate, community will define success for you. And many women step into what they understand to be success, and they start creating, and they go into corporate America, get the college degree, go to corporate America, start moving up the ladder, and they find that they are not really happy. And that's because their ladder is leaning on the wrong wall. And it's not the level of success or what their definition of success. They're out of congruency with their definition of success.
Yeah.
So they've satisfied everybody else's, Pat, she's this, she's that, and, blah, blah, blah. But inside, they're empty because they're not aligned with what really matters. Maybe they're not even living their passion, which a lot of women don't live their passion. They go and they get the specific degree that they've been told, that was in their family lineage. And they find that they're, they can do the work and they're achievers. But inside, it's like, what, I've always wanted to be a writer, or I've always wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm not doing it. And so there's this disconnect in what they really want to do and what they're doing. And that causes a lot of unhappiness.
That's such a great point, because I think so many people, women as well, but all people, I think they tend to go toward a career in something they're good at, which is not wrong.
It's not wrong.
But many times the things that we're good at really aren't the things that we have passion for, or that are going to help us get out of bed every day. Right. So I love the idea that defining our own success is the first step, because society will tell us what success is, and maybe that doesn't actually work for each individual. So I love that. And you've got so many great lessons learned throughout your book as you take Katherine's journey, and then you put your own little perspective in there and talk a little bit about that. And I love that part of it. So there's so much going on in your book.
Yes.
And so there's no way to even get bored reading it, because there's always another character that you're learning from at the same time.
Jackie told me this morning, Pat, that she couldn't put it down.
Oh,
She started reading it, she couldn't put it down. As with most books that Jackie reads that she finds interesting. But
thank you. I appreciate that.
In fact, Pat, can I read one of your musings from your book?
Yes, yeah, of course you can read it. Yeah, absolutely.
I can't remember which chapter this is from, but it's early on, and what you say is, we always have our choice. Our sacred journey is an ebb and flow of experiences that make us who we are. Our life experiences show up like wrinkles around our eyes. Some of the wrinkles are of joy, others of sadness. Each of us are on a sacred journey that is unique, that cannot be lived by anyone else. Boy, do I have a lot of wrinkles around my eyes. And what a lovely metaphorical writer you are. That was just one paragraph, people. But Pat has beautiful metaphors all the way through the book, as she's talking about this character named Katherine and what she's learning, and then how Pat applies that to us in this day. And so I just got to say, I really did enjoy that.
Thank you.
What inspired the storyline, Pat? I mean, it is a magical journey. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of The Alchemist, really, kind of, in a way. But where did the inspiration of jumping from island to island and visiting in each island? I mean, you had, I can't remember the island names, but one was
interesting island names. Some of them are real, some of them are just kind of came out of through source. I find that that women really love stories.
Yeah.
And women, they want to dive into a story and find an aspect of themselves in the story, versus it's just being a self-help book. And when I initially created the book, it was 31 soulful practices for women entrepreneurs, 31. And my team said, Pat, you have 3 books here. Because I want you to take your favorite practices and I want you to weave a story around it. And I said, okay.
And that's exactly what you did. I can see that from that perspective now. Absolutely.
Have you always been into writing, Pat? I mean, you were in corporate America and and managing engineers, and then all of a sudden, oh, here's a book. Is this a new beginning, or have you always had this passion?
No, it's a new beginning. It was on my bucket list, and I know books are on a lot of women's bucket lists, and I encourage you to jump in. You don't have to be a writer. So I learned along the way and through a lot of frustration. And it took me a while. It took me 6 years to write the book.
Wow.
And what I learned about writing is that I wrote and I got better at writing and better at writing because I just kept after it, even though there were days where I just wanted to give it up. And the advice that I would share with women who want to write a book is that, just allow the words to come and don't push the book. I was pushing the string. I wanted it to be born a certain time in a certain year, and it just wouldn't happen. And it caused a lot of frustration. And finally, I said, okay, this book wants to be born at a specific time. And I'm just going to detach myself from that. And I'm going to let it evolve how it wants to evolve. And I am going to support whenever it wants to be released. And once I let go of that, once I stepped into that, then it was a joy to write.
It's the way it works. Right?
Yeah. Well, and Pat, that actually fits right in with another section that I really enjoyed, and it talks right there about what you just said. It said, when you're on your sacred journey, you live the path of least resistance, the life you were meant to live. You are in flow with life. There's a wonderful ease and grace to your day. You trust yourself and your higher source, God or universe. So you say, I tell my clients, quote, focus on what is important, what you desire, and let go of the how. I love that. Allow yourself to be guided as you go through your day and ask, what is my next best step? And then be still and allow the answer to come. You don't need to figure it all out.
Right.
You come to understand that every answer you seek is hidden in the empty space. Wow, that's exactly what you just said. And so it confirms to me that these are principles I need to work on. I need to relax a little bit more. I need to get comfortable with that ebb and flow and not always worry about what I need to do, but how it's going to happen for me. So thank you for.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, Pat. What Jackie just described is magical. It's a part of magic that I know, but it's not magical that we acquire it. It takes practice. So take us down that road that you would help your clients with getting in that groove. I call that getting in the groove.
It is.
Because you're groovy, Todd.
Because you're a groovy guy.
She nailed it. She got me.
It does. It comes down to really allowing. And when you, I tell my clients, I said, first of all, I want you to know that you're exactly where you need to be. Yeah. Exactly where you need to be. Don't compare yourself. Don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 7, because we all have a unique path. And once you let go of that comparison and you know that you're on your own journey and every day you're exactly where you need to be, just allow yourself to step into your gifts, your own energy, and then ask the questions, because you don't have to figure it out. It's already been figured out for you. You just have to ask the question and then be quiet and let it come in, and just do that every day as part of your morning routine. Part of your morning routine, you wake up and you're grateful. I say be grateful, 2 or 3 things that you're grateful of, and then just allow yourself to sit in silence and just ask the question, what's my next best step today? And then go do that. Don't question it. Don't start, don't let your brain get into the process and try to talk you out of it, because ego will do that. And just go do that. And then when you're done with that, then ask yourself, what is the next step? Yeah.
How there's a section in your book where you really, and I believe you are a proponent of journaling.
Absolutely.
How key is that?
It is very key. I think journaling for me is probably one of the most profound tools that a person can use to learn about themselves and become a better person every day. So I tell my clients, I said, just start, just 5 minutes, and I want you to answer 3 questions. What went well in my day today? What didn't go so well? And what will I do differently? Just ask yourself those 3 questions at the end of the day or the beginning of the next day, and you will start learning more and more about yourself, connecting the dots for yourself, and you will start, every day will be a better day because you're learning from the previous day's accomplishments and maybe in mistakes, because that's how we learn, through mistakes.
Another big question that I was taught was, what am I to know here? What is it that I am to understand about this? Or, well, that's curious, Pat, about journaling. How often do you go back and read your past journals?
What was your question again? How
How often do you go back and read?
Oh, I do. I do it often. I do have a current and then the past year. And so what I'll do is I'll just take my past year's journal and I'll just open it up to, and let's see where it opens up to.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I said, let's see what day it opens up to. And then I just read, how I express myself, what I learned, and, build upon that, because it's really a question of curiosity. And the other practice outside of journaling is called, and I talk about this in the book, is called unraveling.
I was going to ask you about that.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that is powerful. Oh my God, it's powerful. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So what I share is that at the end of the day, before you go to bed, I want you to play back your day as if it was a movie. Mm-hmm. So you can play it back from the evening all the way to the morning, or you can play the movie back from the time you woke up to the time that you're now getting ready to go to bed. And I want you to be the observer of your movie. And I want you to see the patterns in your life, in your day. What went well and why? What didn't go so well and why? So that you can learn from every day's experience by being the observer of your life. And then write them down.
Wow.
That experience is life-changing if you do it consistently.
And that really has the power to clear the slate too, right, Pat? I mean, it just, anything you're packing around, reviewing your day, you might have caused another harm where you need to make it right and not even realize what it is you said or did or anything like that. So this is a way of just reviewing and cleaning the slate.
I like the way you put that.
And I'm sure there's power, as you mentioned, looking back and reading past posts. Mm-hmm. I would imagine that's really the clearest way to validate for each individual. Are they honing their power, or are they keeping it covered up too much because of their own behaviors and the things that maybe the patterns they fall into every day? Are they really making themselves more powerful? Or are they making themselves powerless because of their own actions? And I can see how that would be a really supernal way to discover more about yourself. So, journaling is something I did as a young girl pretty religiously, and kind of get out of habits when you get married and have children and you're raising families and that kind of thing. But when I returned to it, and I have been somewhat regular about it over the last couple of years, it has that special power, like you said, that you don't know unless you actually do it, because it just seems like, I'm writing some things down, but unless you actually do it, you don't recognize how, like you say, life-changing it can be, because it is all about self-discovery. Yes. And you're leaving a legacy for other people too. Like you point out in your book that Katherine finds this journal from this uncle, and it teaches her about life. So either we're making a difference in our own life right now through journaling, or we're leaving a legacy for other people to learn about what we have learned and done, and the actions that we took and the outcomes we had. So it is all really, really powerful. And I think every one of us needs a coach like you.
Put me in, coach.
Come on in. Come to my website. It's right up here.
I want to just take a minute and let you know that you are tuned into Life Mastery Radio with Todd. I'm Todd, and that's Jackie. And our guest today is Pat Alva-Kraker, and she is the author of, this is the cue for Pat to hold up her book. She is the author of the #1 bestseller, Katherine's Quest. and it's one woman's journey to elation. You know, I surfed around a little bit. I checked out Amazon. Amazon, #1 best-selling book. Pretty cool. And it just came out in September. But I always like to read and see what other people think. And I found this, and I want to share it with you. And this is because Jackie said something. Could not put it down.
No.
That was in bold letters across the top. I love the story. It grabbed my attention within the first few lines. I am not big on I like to call them shelf-help books because they end up on the shelf, but I'm not big on self-help books, mostly because of the way they are written. This book is a story that gets your attention. The lessons were clear, and Pat's musings were a bonus. Great read, and that comes from somebody called Y. Carter. Pat, your book's been out in September. There was a bunch of these reviews. All of them were good. What does that do for you personally? I mean, it's not a big ego stroke, but isn't it a great way to affect other people's lives?
It is. I really appreciate that question because as these principles and these habits, came to work for me through going through my challenges, and then I would say to my clients, I want you to just try this one practice and let me know how it goes for you. And then I would get positive results. And I said, why is this just being kept within a small community? This has to, my story and my practices need to make a bigger impact on women, because even just one of those practices can change a woman's life. And it's time for me to expand and make a bigger impact.
Well, that's an interesting point, because these thoughts and ideas have been around for a very long time, and many people have practiced them, and many people have put their own spin on them. But you pose a situation, and you create this really cool story that grabs people's attention, and then you come in as this person described with Pat's musings, and it's your insights on how it worked and how it worked for you, and it's just a great way to write a book, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And like you say, it's available on Amazon, and it's also available on my website at majesticcoachinggroup.com. And the other, on my website, I have affirmation cards with it, and I have my own journal.
Oh.
So I came up with this after I released it. So you can get these two and the book at my website.
So does the journal have the questions on it that you're encouraging us to ask ourselves? It
does not, but it does. Every chapter, it does designate every chapter, and it has all the graphics, the color graphics.
From the book.
I was going to ask you about that. Are those your paintings?
No, but aren't they gorgeous?
Oh, they are gorgeous.
Oh my God, they're stunning. I get a lot of comments on the graphics, the illustrations, because they're so powerful. And there she is, thinking, contemplating life. Yes. And so those illustrations are also on the affirmation cards. And it's really a transformational book. If you do the work and you go through it, you're a different person by the time you finish.
I think you just got to read it and start thinking about, oh my gosh. I mean, I read the section on decluttering, and I'm looking around like, oh yeah. So tease us a little bit, Pat, and read us an affirmation card.
Well, okay. I'm going to take
they're not long. I mean,
they're not long. I'm just going to pick one for us and see what the energy says. I do everything from a position of love.
Wow. That was short and sweet and very cool, because we are sending out love, thoughts, and ideas with Life Mastery Radio. That's very cool.
Well, speaking of love, Pat, in your book, you mentioned one of the important lessons you learned was self-care.
Yes.
And we hear that term a lot. It's sort of a buzzword that's going around right now. But what does that really mean? And what do you suggest people do to care for themselves in maybe a different perspective, perspective than before?
Yes, for sure. For sure. Self-care for me is a set of practices that a person goes and lives through on a daily basis that helps them fill their cup from a mind, body, and soul perspective. Because when our cup is full or overflowing, then we can give from a better place versus depleting ourselves and putting ourselves last on the list. And then we're giving from an empty cup. And it really doesn't serve anyone when you're giving from that place. And because it's a mind, body, and soul, my view of the mind, body, and soul is it's just the little things. It's taking the time to, meditate. It's some form of movement. It's expanding your mind. It's loving yourself. It's those that doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple. It's, if flowers make you smile, it's buying flowers every week.
Yeah. So is that why so many people get burnout? Is that they're depleting their cup, or whatever metaphor you want to use? They're depleting that, and they're not having enough to give out anymore. So they're just literally getting tired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And part of that is not being able to say no.
Because we want to give, right? We want to give.
We want to give, and we give and we overgive. And then we are so overwhelmed because we've said yes to so many people. Yeah. And we really don't have the cycles and the energy and the mental capacity to really give to that level. And it also comes back to, are you saying yes to things that really don't align with who you are? You're saying yes to things that don't move you forward in your life and in your business.
It's hard for me to give you a banana if I don't have a banana.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I learned that.
I like that, Todd. A good metaphor.
Very cool. So there's another thing that you are a big proponent of that I caught wind of, and I wanted to make sure we talked about that and your process. And that is, what do you think it is?
What do you think it is?
Intention.
Intention. Oh my God. That's my number one. That is my number one. Yeah, definitely. I really believe that in order to create the life and the life and the business and relationships that we want, that it's very important that we live from intention. And intention is just the energy and the feeling that we give to an outcome that we desire, whether it's an intention for a meeting, an intention for a conversation, an intention for a vacation that you're taking. It's that it's really important that you say, my intention is to have an amazing conversation with Todd and Jackie.
So
and
far,
that
so
in
good.
my intention, I want to feel connected to them. I want to be in a place of love and joy, and I want them to feel the same way too. And that's how I set my intentions.
It's magical. Go through your process. What is it that you teach and your clients and explain to them how that works, because it is powerful and it is magical. And
it is powerful and it is magical. It's a way to manifest whatever you want in your life. And you begin with the end in mind. So there's three parts to the formula that I teach. And one is to see the end in mind and what it is you want to accomplish, and to be able to really be articulate about what it is that you want out of that particular event or situation. And what do you want the outcome to be? And then I always said at the end that it be easy and effortless. Mm-hmm. So whatever situation, meeting, conversation you're going to have is, I want you to write out, it is my intention to, and then give yourself at least 3 or 4 bullets of how you want that situation to occur, and easily and effortlessly. Mm-hmm. And then the other part is, how do you want to feel? Because you and I know that feelings play a big part in what we bring into our lives. So if we feel good, then we attract good. And so feelings are really like the magnet of bringing in what you want. So one of the part 2 is, I want to feel, and then you list it. I want to feel good. I want to feel articulate. I want to feel connected. I want to feel joyful, whatever that is for you. And for the third part is, How do you want the others to feel in this situation? You know, I want, Jackie and Todd, I want them to feel focused. I want them to feel that I'm the answer to the prayers. I want them to feel joyful. I want them to feel whatever. You put all their feelings into the mix, and then you let it go.
Detach.
And at the end, you say this or something better. This or something better. And then you just detach yourself. And you've already asked Source, the universe, God, for the outcome.
Wow, that was answering a question that I had in my mind before I got a chance to ask it, which was, how do you always achieve what you want when what you want also is dependent on other people? But what you're saying is, if we can envision them feeling or getting something from what we're offering, then that sends that message out to the universe, and we can actually then influence the people that make those decisions, or we can influence that outcome simply by our own, I don't know, what do you call it that we're putting out there? Our intention?
Our intention, right? Our
Yeah.
energy.
Our energy and intention.
Our energy, exactly. Because it's
Wow.
when you do that, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
It's interesting. One of the rules that I was taught about manifesting is that it cannot be person specific, right? So when you are creating that intention and putting it out there, it cannot be directed at a specific person or about a specific person or involving a specific person. It involves a group or a thought or an idea
Or an energy, right?
and the energy. And that really opens up the opportunity for other opportunities, other people, other situations. And it's like you said at the end, it's going to be this or something better. And that something better is always maybe around the corner.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
so does this process involve that decluttering system that you have? Because when you brought up decluttering, that obviously sets in motion for me, or it gives me a mindset of cleaning up my mess, my physical mess, right? But you offer decluttering of the mind, decluttering of your time, decluttering of your heart. Can you tell us what each of those might feel like and how they affect us
Yes.
overall?
Yes. Exactly. So when you have in order to bring in love, success, whatever that is, whatever you desire, your plate has to be open to hold it. You have to have the space to hold it. And if you have a decluttered space, a decluttered home, decluttered heart, decluttered time, you don't have the capacity to receive. Right? So if you don't have time to spend with family and friends and go on vacation, your time is decluttered. If you spend your time looking for the pair of shoes, the keys, the glasses, etc., then your space is decluttered.
And your mind, because
your mind, because you're
frustration sets in, and then you don't want to look for your keys, and you don't. It's just
and you mentioned fear and worry too as a way that your mind gets cluttered with emotions that really aren't benefiting you. They're not helping you, but they are they're keeping other better feelings or intentional feelings from taking place
from coming in. Right. Exactly. And when you're living a day of anger, bitterness, grief, guilt, then your heart needs decluttering. There needs to be some healing in that space. And I'm actually teaching a class on that here soon.
Tell us about the class next week.
Yeah, the class is, it's February 23rd. It's next Tuesday, February 23rd. It'll be done via Zoom. And you can go to my Facebook group, Majestic Coaching Group, and learn more about it. And I am going to teach 5 different tips of how to declutter your heart. And it's mind, body, and soul type of tips. So it's some writing exercises, it's color, it's crystals, it's smell, it's music, it's bringing in everything into helping you declutter your heart so that you're open to love. and you're open to happiness. And from that place, you can create amazing things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It
very,
sounds
very
like it needs to be a song, Declutter My Heart.
You know, I first got in tune with this idea. It was a very long time ago. I was living in an apartment building, Pat, and sometimes I would get in the elevator, and there would be things in the elevator. There, maybe one day, some salt and pepper shakers, a painting, a clock, some spoons, some utensils, something. And I started to call it the elevator guide, because I would come back and the things would be gone. It wasn't there anymore. And so finally I got curious, and I caught the woman putting stuff in the elevator.
Oh, how interesting.
And I asked her about it, and she says, it's just my way of decluttering. It's my way of I've used these things. It's now time for somebody else to use these things. And that allows me to get new things.
Wow.
It blew
How
me away. I
clever.
was just like, wow.
Okay.
Pretty cool. That's a story. Oh, that's a story that's in my book, Life 6 Keys to Life Mastery Radio. You can go to Amazon and find it too. It's kind of written like Pat's book. I discovered some things in my mid-40s that made a huge difference in my life. And I always thought, wow, if I would have learned these things in my 20s, things would be a lot different. I mean, everything I did, every place I've been, every corner I turned brought me to who I am today. But the idea was then to give it to younger people and just plant the seed. And so that's why I wrote the book and told the stories. And I really like Pat's approach. So I'm reading Pat's book and I'm thinking, wow, I could rewrite Life 6 Keys to Life Mastery and create this kind of scenario. I mean, the island hopping and oh my gosh, it is so creative. And how you came up with that idea. And I have to ask, does Katherine go to the last island?
Yes.
I knew it. So she goes to the island that I-Man could not make it to. That's very cool. What's the island's name?
Elation.
I forgot that part.
We all want to be elated. So
Elation, which is beyond happiness.
Right.
Where people ask me, what does elation mean? And I said, well, it's beyond happiness. It's that feeling, you know, when you walk down the aisle, or you hold your grandchild, or you get your first car, or the first snowfall, you know, the first time you step into an ocean. It's that feeling that
or your first baby. I mean, your first little one. Your little one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So Pat, do you think we can have that all the time, or is elation set aside for those special events?
No, I think you can have elation anytime you want. It's a choice, right? Just like everything else. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I teach in the book, is that you are always a choice on how you feel and how you accept things, and whether you respond to or react to life. You're always that choice. So to choose and wake up and say, today, I'm going to be elated. It's just that simple.
Todd, is groovy the same thing as elated?
I was just thinking the same thing. You and I are on the same wavelength. Groovy equals elation.
There you
go.
Oh.
I like it.
So, Pat, I was going to ask you too. You preach in your book that it's far better to be satisfied than successful, which is a great perspective on life. Could you tell us when you felt there was a time when you made that transition from a struggle you were having to perhaps to be successful or to have success in something, and you realized it was less about that and more about just being satisfied with who you are and your gift to the world? Is there a story you could share with us about you personally?
You know, I really find that I really came to learn that lesson when I stepped into my business full time. And, you know, so much of the success of an entrepreneur is, you know, hit the 7 figures, hit the 6 figures. You know, I can teach you how to make 6 figures in X number of months. And you get hooked into, you know, and I got hooked into being defined by the money. And I'm like, oh, it just wasn't, I was out of integrity with that. And I had to ask myself, so why am I really going into business? Because it can't be about the money. It cannot be about the money, because I know that the money is just a tool in my life. It's not a defining factor of my success.
Nice.
So what if I had a business where I was just helping women move forward? Would that make me happier? And the answer was yes. I am satisfied. It means a lot for me to move women forward in whatever way I can. And through its books, classes, these conversations, that is meaningful to me because it connects with my why, and it connects with why I feel I was brought here.
Very cool. Well, Pat, if somebody shows up for your class next week that looks like me wearing a wig, you won't blow my cover, will you?
No, as long as you don't say groovy, because not very many people say groovy, then I'll know it's you.
Oh, it's catching on. It's catching on.
Besides, you can't disguise your radio voice, Todd. As soon as you say something, she'll know it's you.
Oh my goodness, ladies, we only have about 4 minutes left.
Oh my God.
Pat, the time has just flown by. Is there one last parting word that you would have for our listeners besides visit the website, links on lifemasteryradio.net, or besides buy the book? The book is wonderful. It's a creative genius of a piece that you will just enjoy.
I would say honor the journey that you're on.
Yeah, cool.
And that whatever obstacles come in your life, it's because they're meant to teach you a lesson. And you have the total capacity within you to be present, to connect to source, to be still and hear the answers that will get you out of that particular circumstance, that situation, that challenge, and come out on the other side a wiser, more powerful woman.
Nice. That's a great way to put a little bow on it.
Yeah. So
you can check out Pat at majesticcoachinggroup.com. We'll have the link on lifemasteryradio.net on today's show page. Pat, thank you so much for showing up as you. Did you have a blast?
It was fun. I love being with you all.
Well, will you come back?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to have you back because this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Jackie, 3 minutes. Any takeaways? What'd you get? Look at that big smile on Jackie's face. You're magical, Pat. Total magic. Look at that. She's glowing.
What are you saying? That I never smile otherwise?
Just an extra big one.
Oh.
Well, there's a lot I'm taking away. I know I need to be a little more diligent in my journaling. And I love that you've offered me a few more questions that I can use to be a little more proactive in that. So I appreciate that. I guess I would ask you, Pat, if there's one thing that you would suggest our audience do to actually take action that they could do in the next 24 hours where they might see a different result. Is there something they could do?
I would say journal.
Okay.
I would say start journaling at the end of the day and ask those 3 questions. Yeah. What went well, what didn't go so well, and what am I going to do differently? Just do that. It doesn't have to take you long. It can be just 5 minutes, but just start doing that today.
Excellent.
There you go.
I think that's easy enough.
There's your action item. Thanks, ladies, for making this an enjoyable experience. I had a blast. I know all of them had it. Those 2 had a blast. That's about all we have time for today. You can check out today's show page at www.lifemasteryradio.net. While you're there, sign up for the newsletter. The newsletter is really cool. Jackie does a great job, and she includes a blog post about the show, what she learned, what some of her insights are, and what we talked about. Pretty cool. That's it. That's all we got. We'll do it again next week. Lastly, I would like for you to really make it a great day. Just a great day, a groovy great day. Check out Pat's book because it is all about choice. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery with Todd Allen, the talk radio show that dives into the science of higher consciousness. Join Todd and his guests weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and learn how to live a peaceful life. For more information on Todd and his guests, visit his website at www.lifemasteryradio.net. That's www.lifemasteryradio.net.